Counting down the top 10 cities I have lived in as an adult. At number 10, we have Tirana, Albania. And at number 9, we have Juazeiro do Norte, Brazil. And at number 8, we have Ljubljana, Slovenia. Ljubljana is a charming little city, about 300,000 inhabitants. It's a small city, but a European capital. What I liked about living there was, firstly, aesthetically, it's beautiful. It's lovely. So aesthetically, it was very nice. The nature. Slovenian people have a strong contact with nature. They like to be outside and like to do outdoor activities. So living in Slovenia, living in Ljubljana, you have outdoor activities like hiking and canoeing and climbing, spelunking. Being outside is popular in the culture, and if you enjoy being outside and doing outdoor activities, which I do, Ljubljana is great for that. Also, what I liked about the city is nutria. I did not even know nutria existed, but when I was living in Ljubljana, I had an apartment on the outskirts of Ljubljana in the suburbs along the river, and I would take my laptop down to the riverbank and I'd work on my novel, and the river is just loaded with nutria, and nutria they look like beavers when they swim. They're really cute, and then when they come out of the water, they have these long rat tails. They're river rats, and big thick river rats, and I just thought they were cute. And my first experience with them, I'm down by the river and I'm typing away on my laptop, and they're so used to being around people that they just don't really pay me any attention. They come out of the water and they'll walk right by me. And the first time I interacted with them, I kind of freaked out, like these huge rats are passing me by, and I'm freaking out. But eventually I got used to them, and it was just nice to be on the river and working on my novel, and then there'd be like these enormous rats that would just walk by and then go for a swim and come out and like not pay me any attention. And you can feed them. You probably shouldn't, but I did. You give them some lettuce, and they eat the lettuce, and it's really cute. So the nutria were adorable, I thought. It turns out nutria, it's a strange name, by the way, nutria. They are from South America initially, but they were brought to Europe as part of the fur trade. Like people would raise these river rats for their fur because they reproduce at quite an alarming rate, so they're excellent for raising for fur. The problem is that they reproduce at an alarming rate, so now there are just tons of them. And nutria is a strange word because in Spanish, nutria is a word that means otter, but they do not look at all like otters. But they are also called castorpu, I think, or castorpus. They have other names. I'm not familiar with the other names. I enjoyed spending time by the river and hanging out with these adorable rats, and there were ducks as well and squirrels, and it was nice. What I didn't like so much about Ljubljana was, well, it's a small city, so there wasn't really much going on. I was there to write books, and I got a lot done. But I didn't really have a lot of fun while I was there. It was difficult for me to make friends. There wasn't really much going on there. I spent most of my time in isolation, hanging out with rats, you know. It's also quite expensive. For a small city, I was expecting a lower cost of living, but no, it's pretty expensive. It's a pretty expensive city. And it's difficult to find apartments in the city center. I was able to find places on the outskirts, in the suburbs. but I did feel quite a bit isolated while I was there. When you go to Ljubljana, you have to visit this artist squat called Metelkova Mesto. And it was a former Yugoslavian military barracks that was taken over by artists, and they just transformed the complex into art studios and cafes and nightclubs, and it's a lot of fun, and you have all kinds of people who go there. You have people skateboarding, you have people, families enjoying meals, and then at night it turns into a nightclub. It's a lot of fun. That was the highlight of the city for me. It's a charming little city, cute city, I would say. It reminded me a bit of like a little Vienna. Some of the architecture reminded me of Vienna, which makes sense because it was part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire all the way up until World War I. So architecturally, it did remind me of Vienna, but in a much smaller version. It was almost like if Disneyland created a Vienna for its theme park, they would create Ljubljana, which sounds pejorative, and I don't mean it like that. I really like Ljubljana, but that was the impression I had, because the center of the city, like the old town, it's all pedestrian. No cars are allowed, which is great, and you have all these colorful buildings, and you have the Ljubljana River that runs through it, and it's small, it's narrow, and you have these cute little bridges that cross the river, and these bridges are ornately decorated. And then you have in the background, you have a hill with a Ljubljana castle on it. So it had a very Disney-like quality to it, which again sounds pejorative. I don't mean it to be pejorative. It is aesthetically a very nice city. My score for Ljubljana, as far as aesthetics go, I'm going to give it a high score. I'm going to give it a 7. It is visually very appealing. It's quite lovely. As far as ease and comfort, if you're in the city center, firstly it's pedestrian, it's small enough to walk around in. You do have good public transport as well. Unfortunately, it is difficult to find apartments in the city. I could only find places on the outskirts in these like Soviet bloc style apartment complexes, which weren't all that nice. So I'm going to give it a low score for ease and comfort because the housing. I will give it a 4. And for fun, Ljubljana for me wasn't, I did have a good time while I was there, but it was difficult for me to make friends. I spent a lot of my time on the outskirts where I had difficulties communicating with people. I don't speak any Slovenian. I do speak a little bit of Russian, but that was not helpful. I think as a second language, German would have been helpful. I don't speak any German. I do have several second languages. None of them were helpful to me. So I had a difficult time interacting with people, and there really wasn't a lot going on. So for fun, I'm going to give it a lower score of 3. I do want to talk about 2 books that feature Ljubljana. The first is a horror book called Breed by Chase Novak. Now, Chase Novak is the pen name for the writer Scott Spencer. And Scott Spencer is best known for his book Endless Love, which is like a modern Romeo and Juliet kind of work. But I suppose he wanted to write some horror, so he put it under a pen name, Chase Novak. And in this book, it's not a good book, by the way. But it's not a good book, but it was a fun read. I did have a good time with it, even though I recognized that it was not good. Basically, this wealthy couple from the Upper East Side of Manhattan, they wanted children, but they could not conceive. They had difficulties conceiving. They consulted all the doctors in the U.S. and they couldn't find a solution to their problem, and they're at their wits' end, but they hear about this mad scientist in Slovenia, so they say, oh, why not, let's go try it. We've tried everything else. So they go to Slovenia, they go to Ljubljana to seek this remedy from this mad scientist. And according to the book, they go to Slovenia because, according to the book, right, which is not at all accurate, but Slovenia is like a lawless country where they don't have regulations, and so people will do this experimental medicine. And what was crazy about this book, this passage in Breed, is they go to Ljubljana and it's raining and it's stormy, and they try to set this atmosphere like it's scary, you know, like a horror book. And they're downtown Ljubljana, and the lady, she's crossing the bridge on her way up the hill to this castle during this rainstorm, and it's supposed to be really scary, which is laughable because Ljubljana is many things, but creepy or scary is definitely not one of them. Ljubljana is a beautiful, charming little Disney-like town, really. So it was just kind of silly. And the author, Chase Novak, in this book, it's the only book of his I've read, he really comes across as the epitome of the ignorant American, because his concept of Slovenia, it was completely, wildly inaccurate. You don't have, Slovenia is part of the European Union. You have great healthcare, you have laws, you have regulations. It's not this outlandish city that it's portrayed as in this book. In fact, the characters in this book, they fly to Germany first, and then they catch a connecting flight from Germany to Ljubljana, and they're amazed that there's no passport control in Slovenia, which of course there's no passport control because it's part of the European Union. Once you're in Germany, you don't go through passport control again. So that was kind of strange. And the doctor, he refused to take American dollars. He demanded to be paid in euros, and the characters were freaked out by this. They're like, oh, there's something sketchy about this. I don't know, you go to the United States and you try to pay a doctor in euros, is that going to fly? It was very strange. The whole portrayal of Ljubljana in this book is shockingly bad and inaccurate and laughable. That being said, the book is not bad. This couple, I mean, it is bad. I'll be honest with you, it's bad, but it's fun. It's fun. There's a lot of action, and it's not really scary, but there's some interesting carnage and action. What happens is the couple, they get this fertility treatment, and the fertility treatment changes them into something less than human. And when the woman, she births these children, these twins, they are something less than human. And so later on in the book, as these twins, they grow older, they realize that their parents are a little bit off, and they are scared that their parents are going to eat them, so they run away. But they're also quite feral, like they will become what their parents are too. So if you're interested in some mindless, silly, like half-human birth horror, Breed is good for that, but it's not a good book. And it's a terrible portrayal of Ljubljana, incredibly inaccurate. The second book I want to talk about is from a Slovenian author named Luka Novak. Luka Novak is a popular Slovenian foodie. He had a television show where he talked about food, and he cooked food and tasted food, and he was quite popular for that. And he also wrote many nonfiction books. And his nonfiction books, I haven't read any of them, but they all have very strange titles, borderline satirical. For example, he wrote a book on the psychogeographical analysis of public transport in Paris, New York, and Tokyo. He also wrote a book called Phénoménologie de la mayonnaise, which is a historical and philosophical analysis of gastronomy in France. His nonfiction titles sound like like crazy satire, like hyper specific philosophy and sociology. They're the kind of titles that I would expect to find referenced in House of Leaves, for example, like that level of satire. But I did not read those. I read his fiction work called Golden Showers, or What Men Want. And this was a zany book. Basically, it's this billionaire from South America, and he wants to Fight Club the world. He wants to like revolutionize the hierarchy of the world, and he will accomplish this by recreating famous works of art, but accentuating or adding pornographic elements to them. And this is going to revolutionize the world in some way. So he hires this down on her luck young Slovenian woman to be his model for these recreations, and they go around the south of France and other locations to recreate these famous works of art. And it's a zany adventure story. Kind of, it was a bit like reading a cartoon in a way, you know? But I think the author was trying to say something about society and about art and about the meaning of life in this book. Whatever he was trying to say, it went over my head. I didn't really catch it. But the book kind of reminded me a little bit of Ancient Lights by Davis Grubb, which Ancient Lights, I think, is borderline masterpiece. It has this kind of sexualized characters, but all in the service of making social commentary and commentaries about spirituality and things like that. So Ancient Lights is by Davis Grubb is amazing. I think that Golden Showers had similar ambitions to that, but it didn't quite hit it like Ancient Lights did. So I can't really recommend Golden Showers, but I do respect and admire it for its ambition. But Ancient Lights, I respect and admire for its ambition and for its execution. Ancient Lights is spectacular. And for more on Ancient Lights, I would invite you to check out my video on it called The Strangest Books I've Ever Read. My score for Ljubljana, for the aesthetics, I'm giving it a 7. For ease and comfort, I'm going to give it a 4. And for the fun, I'll give it a 3, which comes out to 14, which places it at number 8 on my top 10 of cities I have lived in as an adult. If you are a subscriber to this channel and you subscribe because I talk about books and I talk about writing and publishing, I will continue to make videos like that. I just thought that I would talk about some of the cities I've lived in. And initially, I thought I was going to make a top 10 video, but the problem is I have so much to say about these cities that I think it's probably going to take me like 10 videos to actually do this top 10 list. And if you're new to the channel and you came to this channel because of Ljubljana, Slovenia, that's great. I'm happy that you came to this channel. I'm probably not going to talk about Slovenia much more on this channel. I focus on books and writing. But I do thank you for stopping by, and I hope you got something out of this. In any event, I look forward to connecting with you in the comment section. Thank you for watching. I'll see you at the next video.